Hello, my name is Sinead Naughton, and this is my presentation for my OnlineBank RESTful API project, and this is a solo project. So just an overview of the presentation, what I'm going to discuss is I'm going to discuss what resources or functionality I thought was needed for the API, what features my API has. I'm going to talk then about what I found was the most difficult aspect of the project and how I got around that, and then I'm going to give a demonstration of the system using the custom client that I created, and hopefully we'll get to see most of the resources. So first of all, the resources that I felt were needed for this project or that were outlined in the brief. So there are three entities. There's customer, and then a customer has accounts, and then accounts have transactions. So basically all the kind of functionality that the system has is all outlined here. To create a customer, create an account, retrieve all, retrieve one, and make transactions of different types, and so on and so forth, but it's all kind of listed here. So features, basically my system in total is made up of the server, which has all kind of the application logic. It's got the resource paths and everything like that, all the resources, all access to them, the database. It's like a mock database layer connected to the server rather than actual database for the prototype. And then I also made a custom client as well, and this is a Java client, and it uses a graphical user interface, and this just to test all the resource access points and just make it really easy for testing the the resource. So basically the features then that are on my server side are authentication, and then there's also logic in the service layer for checking the associations just to make sure that a customer who shouldn't be accessing a bank account they don't own isn't accessing it, and so on. And then I've also made custom responses. So this just allows kind of more flexibility in what information is sent back to the customer. It allows better kind of reporting of errors and stuff, like if they try and access something they shouldn't, or if they try and update if they try and withdraw money from an account that doesn't have enough money, I can send them back a message to say there isn't enough funds in that. And then I've also used Hatius, which basically is just that the resources themselves, when they're retrieved, come with useful links. So basically they come with a link to themselves, so a customer would have a link of itself, so maybe like customer/1, and then a customer might also have a link to accounts associated with that customer, so maybe customers/1/accounts, and so on. So now just to talk about what I found was the most difficult kind of aspect, or one of the most difficult aspects of the project. And for me, I would have to say that this kind of revolves around authentication and making sure that customer had the right permissions to access a resource, and then possibly a bit as well about the correct resources, or sorry, the correct responses. So just making sure that all the that every possible kind of path that a customer could take was thought of, and that we're catching all the exceptions, and that a response is sent back to a customer so they always know what's happening, even if they haven't put the right input in or something like that. But what I'm going to talk about is the authentication, and we're going to jump into the code and have a kind of a bit of a look at it. So for authentication, I decided to do basic auth. So this is basically when your authentication information, so your username and your password, will get sent in the header of the request, and it gets sent as a base64 encoded string. The server then decodes and checks this string against the information that is in the database, or the mock database in this instance, and just make sure that it is a match and that customer is allowed to access this resource. So this is the class that is used to do that here. So it's a class called security filter, and it uses the @provider annotation, and it implements the container request filter. So basically, just to very broadly talk about this resource, the first thing that you might notice up here is we have actually a static instance of admin that we have for testing, and this is just so there's always an admin kind of credentials on the system because we don't have a persistent storage. So we just store the base 64 encoded string, and it's just always there, and when we want to log into our system we just use admin and we just use the password 123, and it's always there to be checked in a static instance. The other two static instances then, this is basically the header key that we're looking for, and this is just the prefix that comes at the start of these, so we can remove it from the string when we get it. So just to jump in then, first we create a list. We get the context of the request, and then from this we get the headers. From this we get any headers that have the key authorization, and this is coming from here, and then we store them in this list. Then we check if this list isn't null, and if the size is greater than 0, can I have the first one in that list? There's normally only one anyways. And then we just check in this instance if it's admin, which we've statically stored above. If it is, they can proceed with their request. Then there are also two resources that admin are not allowed to access. One is see all customers and one is create a customer. This piece of code here is just making sure that they other customers can't access this by saying if they're not an admin, and if there is no customer ID in the path, as those resources don't have it, then deny the request. And the rest of it is basically just getting the authorization token, breaking it down, removing the prefix, getting the username part, getting the password part, and then we're comparing it against our database, and we're saying, yeah, that's fine to proceed, or no, that's not fine to proceed. And that's kind of it. The other bit of checking that's done in this system then is just done more at the service layer, and it's basically because that only checks if a customer is authorized on kind of a customer record. This just checks against accounts. Is a customer authorized to see account? So basically, can't see it right here in front of me, but it would just say, here it is. So if the customer on this account is not equal to the customer in the request, then do not proceed with this. So customer not authorized to see it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into our actual client, and we're just going to demonstrate the system and how it works. So this is our custom client that we created for the system, and this is our admin login that we spoke about for our basic auth. So I'm just going to create a customer here. I just use my own details, and I'll just keep it short for this. PPS number must be 8 to 9 digits long. It's a string, and if it's not, the system will say that it's not a valid PPS and to enter one, and then they can set. So we're saying add this customer here, and now the customer is returned to us. So the customer gets returned to us with all the information that we added, plus it gets a customer ID. It has these links as well that we mentioned in relation to HATUS, which is basically a link to itself and then a link to its accounts. And when you create an account or anything like this, this always gets added as well. It gets a date created and so on. So we'll add one more customer object, and we just have to kind of amend the PPS slightly for this. So we'll just put a 1 at the end instead, and we'll just create the same details as well. So that creates another one. You can see the PPS is different at the end. And then we're just going to demonstrate viewing all customers. So this says customers on system, and then just gives you a list in JSON format of all the customers on the system, their links, everything. So now we're going to demonstrate as logged in as admin, retrieving just one customer from the system. So view a customer. And again, that just from their ID retrieves you back just that customer, and we're logged in as admin. So we could do that for anyone. What we're going to do now is we're going to log in as customer number 2. So we have their PPS up here, and their password is also 123. And we're going to say view a customer. They're not letting them view it because they're actually trying to view customer 1, but they're customer 2. So that's fine. View, and it will let them view that. I'm just going to demonstrate as well that you can update a password. I'm just going to leave it the same, but I'm going to press update password here, and you'll see that this says it says customer password has been successfully updated, and we could have updated that to something else if we wanted. So you can also update a customer's name, a customer's address. You can remove a customer from the system, and there's just lots of checking to make sure that it's the right customer who's acting on behalf of the customer account kind of thing. But now we're going to move on to the account resource, and we're going to demonstrate adding an account. So we're still logged in as customer 2, and there are 3 types of accounts that you can add: a current account, a savings account, and a credit card account. So we're going to add a current account for them. Under these accounts, there has to be a particular, so I'm going to enter an incorrect sort code to start with, and I'm going to say add account. And it's going to say your sort code needs to be of one of these. So we'll do that then instead. And we are going to add this account, which is a current account, and then it's going to say account created. So that's perfect. That customer now has an account. It's given it this account number. So it's customer 2, and they've got this account number ending in 1. And now we're going to try and add another current account for this customer now. And we'll see customer already has a current account, and it'll tell you. And then we're going to try and add an account for customer 1. And we're going to say add an account. Resource cannot be accessed because they are customer 2. So we're going to add one more account for them, and this is a credit card account. We'll keep the sort code the same. Oh, we have to enter a credit limit. That was good. We have to enter credit limit because this is a credit account. So perfect, we've done all that now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change back to customer 1. We're just going to do the same for them. So we're going to add accounts for them as well. 103, their credit card account, and we're going to add a current account for them as well. We'll remove this, you don't need to, but we'll remove it and we'll add another account. So that account ends in 104. Perfect. For this customer, we're going to demonstrate that you can actually update the branch. So we need to have the account number in here to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think that's a valid account number in there. We're going to try and update this branch to 70, 70, 70 instead of that. Update branch. Account branch changed. Perfect. And then for their other account, then what we're going to try and do is, so I think this is their credit account, and we're going to try and update their credit limit. So let's update it to 6,000. I think that's, and update credit limit. Perfect, account credit limit updated. Now we're going to demonstrate view all accounts. So this returns a list of accounts for customer 1. And then we're going to demonstrate we have an account number in here, view 1 account, and this returns just that account where the account number. We can also get the balance of an account. So this is a credit account, so it shows their credit limit is minus 6,000. We do this as minus so that when their account balance starts going down, 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 that it can be easily compared to it. And also if they wanted to withdraw money, we just make sure the account balance isn't at the credit limit, it's not equal to it or less than it, you know. So if we do this for 104, view account, get balance, and you'll see that that just has nothing in it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually add a transaction for that account, and we're going to give them 500 with a comment. We'll just put like pay, and we're going to deposit it. So we have the customer number in, we have the account number in, and we're depositing it. And now we're going to get the balance. The balance has gone up to 500. We're now going to withdraw. So we're going to say withdraw, I won't bother putting note, and we're going to get the balance. It's gone down to 400 now. And now we are going to transfer money into another account. So I'll just transfer it into 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll copy this one and I'll transfer it into a different customer's account. And for this you need to have the sort code correct. And if you don't, that's actually how it does the checking that you have the right account, and it'll just say that you don't have the right account. But I think, yep, transfer complete. So it went to account that ends in 2. And if we view their balance decreased by 100 again. So now what we'll do is we'll go back to customer number 2, and we will say account ending in 2, get balance, and they have 100 in there and they had nothing before. Because we've just transferred it to them. So I'm going to jump back to customer number 1, and now what we're going to do, so we've demonstrated that you can do a deposit, you can do a withdrawal, you can do a transfer. It updates the It updates the balances on both sides, and it gives a record. A transfer actually gives a record of both transactions, a transfer in, a transfer out. We're now just going to demonstrate just finding your transactions. So let's say if I put transaction 1 in here, can find, oh, are we in the wrong account? There, find transaction by ID for this account. And there's one there, transaction type, it's the transfer ins, the transfer that we just sent. And then we're going to say see all transactions, and that will return all of the transactions for their account. And then we can also sort them by date. So we can just put in a date here. So the format is year, month, day, and you go see all transactions, but this has passed this now as a query param with the start and end date, and you'll see here it says transactions for this account during this period. And if we change this 9 just to like a few days ago, and we'll see transactions during this period, and there's none listed because there's no persistent storage and there were none before we just added them. And you can also see now that we can also get transactions by whether they were a credit or a debit. So it says credit transactions for account, and it lists them, and I think this account doesn't have any debits, but we'll have a look. Yep, debit transactions for this account, and there are none. If you try and access a transaction that doesn't exist, find transaction, transaction not found. And that is basically it for it. There's loads of other ways that it checks for errors, loads of inputs it catches. As I said, it stops the wrong customer accessing the wrong account details. But that's basically the functionality. The rest is outlined in a report that kind of goes through every entry point in every API. It also lists the types of responses that you get, either errors or non-errors. And there's also another document that just shows the screenshots and what type of responses with images of this GUI, and also images comparing the input or the output in Postman as well. And that's it. Thank you very much. Goodbye.